Narvaez. All right, this is the November 15th, 2018 meeting at 6 p.m. It's the Planning and Zoning meeting. I'll call it to order. First item of the agenda is roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Jose Tellez,
Present.
Carlos Flores,
Present.
Javier Compián,
Present.
Raúl Ogalde,
Present.
Erasmo Villarreal, Johnny Narvaez, Joe Villarreal, Daniel Lopez,
Present.
Jose Dominguez.
Present.
For the record, you have the quorum.
I'll entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Narvaez and Mr. Villarreal.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. I believe Chairman Villarreal is on his way. Next item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody can please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was referring to Joe Villarreal.
Excuse her?
Yes. Next item of business is consideration for approval of the minutes of the meeting on November the 1st, 2018. Any motions? Or any corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is citizens' comments. Do we have anybody?
We don't have anything.
Any business or anything from staff that we need to consider before I move on to the items?
Nothing here.
All right, the first item is item 6A. Commissioner Villarreal is in. Six A.
This is amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo authorizing a special use permit for tiny home community on the south 93.8 of lot 5, block 341, Eastern Division, located at 820 East Price. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? In favor?
Good evening, members of the board. Rick Solis, principal with Hickey Payne Architects. I'm here on behalf of the Laredo Housing Authority. We prepared a little presentation. If you guys want to see it, we can go through it.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a concept that nobody's really familiar with in this market, so.
Okay. Can I go ahead? This project is called Bernal Sunrise Court. It is part of the Housing Authority's program for their inner city revival of the inner city neighborhoods in Laredo. Essentially, I'm going to go through a couple of points here, one about tiny homes, and then discuss similar projects, and then also go through how the projects itself meet the comprehensive plan. So obviously, tiny homes, it's not a new concept. There's many benefits to tiny homes. Obviously, there's a lower square foot construction costs. The rents are more affordable. people have personalized living spaces as opposed to living in an apartment building or project building. These homes tend to be a little bit more energy efficient because they are smaller. They're easier to maintain, and again, we're trying to make a compact use of what the land that's available. So this is the original site at 820 East Price. It was the home of the Bernard Bar, I understand. I believe the council member from this district approached the housing authority about doing something with this property, as it was a nuisance and really did need some attention. The housing authority has already gone through the process of demolishing the structure, and the property is currently cleaned up and ready for construction. So we're proposing a 3-complex development, houses ranging from 280 square feet to approximately 600, a little less than 600 square feet. We're looking at, the lot itself is approximately 6,513 square feet. So there's definitely lots of room to work with this. There's 3 plans that we're currently working with right now. There's a 280 square foot studio unit, 1 bedroom, 450 square foot unit, and a 2 bedroom, 599 square foot unit. Now it's important to note that all these units will have a full kitchen, ADA compliant restroom, and washer and dryer connections. So it's a fully functional structure. It's also important to note that each one of these houses will be built on a permanent foundation. These aren't trailer homes or storage buildings that they're converting to a tiny home. These are stick-built homes from the ground up. We have some renditions of what we envision the project to look like. Again, the 3 homes surrounded by the 3 homes surrounding a courtyard. We have some amenities that we want to discuss. You know, obviously the courtyard in the middle. We do anticipate maybe having a family from a lower economic status there, so we want to give an open play area for kids to play in. Again, a centralized entrance off of Tilden, and the idea behind all of those canopy or all of those porches kind of facing each other is we really want this community to kind of engage one another. If there's a veteran living there or an elderly person or a small family, we want them all to be able to keep an eye on one another and be supportive of one another. Again, a view from the street and another view from the courtyard. So the project itself, the parameters, we're going to create permanent residential living for special populations, i.e. veterans, elderly, homeless. That's sort of the target market here. Again, as I discussed, creating a supportive community where not only are they supporting each other, but they're also receiving support from the housing authority. These will be rentable units. These will not be for sale. Again, with a common shared space in the open play area, and the houses will all be maintained by the housing authority. So as we've been investigating this project and looking across the country, there are tiny home communities around the U.S., as you can see, from the West Coast to the East Coast and everywhere in between. We've actually visited the one in Austin. It's a beautiful place, a beautiful complex. We did want to point out a few. This is the Veterans Community Project in Kansas City. The Veterans Community Project is actually a group that's building complexes in Kansas City, St. Louis, Colorado, and in Nashville. There's traditional housing for veterans, and the goal of the project is to eliminate veteran homelessness nationwide. In doing our research, we've actually found out that the city of Kansas City has a provision in their land development code for what they call cottages. They're allowed to put, depending on the size of the property and if they meet certain requirements, there's no special use required. It's actually in their land development code to build these types of developments. Another community in Detroit, it's Cass Community Homes. There's 25 tiny homes. Again, they're providing housing for a combination of former homeless people, veterans, seniors, college students, And actually, some of the actual staff from this organization can live there as well.
Rick, let me ask you on what you're showing up there.
Yes.
What are the size of those lots and then the size, approximate size of each one of the dwellings?
You know, I don't know that in particular for these. I would imagine the lots are probably, these are maybe 3,000 square feet, maybe probably less than that. And the homes are probably no bigger than, 600 square feet.
600.
Yeah. So how this all relates back to the comp plan and Plan Viva Laredo. Under the urban design goals and policies, these are the things that we're trying to push for and in keeping with the tenets of the comp plan. We want to increase density and incentivize a mix of uses. We want to adjust zoning and promote mixed use development. And we want to strive for a mix of housing types to create neighborhoods that accommodate different diverse ages and income. We want mixed, we don't just want seniors or homeless, or we want a mix of people that are living there. And again, creating interesting street frontage with parking hidden from view, that's very important. We don't, as we were approached for this project, we could have very easily built a 4-complex apartment building like you see everywhere. And we could put the parking lot in the front and a 2-story, 4-unit complex in the back. That would have been the easy thing to do. But in trying to promote the urban design and create a different market and create different affordable markets, really we want to push towards the comp plan and what it talks about. I don't know if you have anything to say.
No, I guess later maybe last year as we bring up the comp plan, because we really worked hard at making sure that that a typical parking lot wasn't built here. It's, with this big 24-foot wide walkability killing driveway, crushing the sidewalk as you walk by this place. So we're very careful to separate the cars. There's an option to do 1 car per unit, but it's a 10-foot driveway, and so it interrupts the sidewalk very little, so you have that continuity all the way through, all the way across when you're walking. So yeah, just to that effect, so that's why that's where I had.
How close is this property to, like, the nearest bus stop or transportation area?
I haven't done that research, but I know that it's on Tilden, and it's about 2 blocks away from the Tarver.
It's from Springfield. Springfield's got a bus line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2 blocks from the health department,
Yeah.
but I don't know, I don't remember where on Cedar it has the bus stop, but if this is gonna be managed by the housing authority, you can make them, part of the conditions of occupancy is limit them, or can we just do it as part of the special use permit?
But,
Limit the number of cars per, because you're gonna have off-site parking, you're gonna have it on the street. You have a house or a property or a lot that's located at the corner, on a corner lot, and so you have even more limited parking area because they can't park that close to the stop signs.
Right.
And so, and I agree with you, I think it looks great without, having the parking lot on the lot itself.
Well, again, we made provisions for 1
1 car.
car per unit.
Yeah,
and that's actually, I think, one of the conditions that's in the
and development.
was that we needed, that, like on the 2-bedroom, we typically would have to provide 2 spaces.
Yeah.
But I think they're just letting us
Yeah.
provide 1 space. And the fact of the matter is, these people may not even have a vehicle.
Yeah.
So we need to take all of those,
And I think the other key thing here is that this is a rental property.
correct.
So the housing authority will control the populations that go in there. They check up very carefully on the populations that they don't have more than they're supposed to in each unit. So that's the control in this type of a project, which makes it a really, I guess, very viable and something new concept that I think I'm interested to see if it'll work. Because this concept obviously is like he said, it's all over the United States. We're just getting to it here, but it's been around. And it's kind of like something that's been going on for some time, where the size of the housing units have shrunk big time because of costs, because of development costs, construction costs, so and so. But I think your concept, and from what I see here, this is a really very nice and very well-designed project.
Thank you.
Does anybody in the commission have any additional questions for the architect?
I just have a comment, Mr. Chairman. I'm always looking at the parking and the well-being of the community itself. So I look at the project and I love the project. Are we gonna set a precedent by allowing that type of construction? This special use permit. So by allowing this, we're allowing other items, other sections of the industry to come before us and for us to approve this type of buildings and construction. And I feel that they're small, I feel they're needed, and I think it's a good project. And I think we should be careful to what we bring before the planning and zoning, what we approve, because we can't deny other sections of the industry to bring it before us. So, but also we have to keep our grants and develop those areas that are forgotten there. And so I agree with you. I think it's a very good project. Yes,
Well, I think it's important also to note that we sort of are looking at this as a pilot project. Obviously, the Housing Authority would like to do more of this. But hey, let's try it out and see how it works and see how it functions and really, we always talk about plans, we all have plans that we prepared, but now we want to put it into action. So we're coming before you guys to be able to do that.
sure. I think it'll be a good prototype. Yes, sir.
In a very controlled manner, so we have said, the housing authority has a lot of control over the properties and the owners, so it's a good way to start this pilot project,
Sure.
with this sort of control.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission members? Thank you all very much for your presentation. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of this project, in favor of this special use permit?
Seth Ceballos with the Housing Authority. I think they did a great job with the presentation and with the work they're doing. This has been a long time to plan, and we did travel to Dallas to see their tiny home village. We traveled to Austin. What we've put into this project is a notch up from what we've actually seen across South Texas and Central Texas and other places. We have, he mentioned it, ADA, the units are ADA based on the population that we're looking at. Structurally, the issue of precedence, we have discussed that fully. We want to make sure that we're using the best of materials that are going to last a long time, not just because we'll have to maintain it, but we want to set the right standard with this pilot project so that when others come, you actually have a place to point them to so that you can show success for this type of development. I appreciate everybody's time and your consideration today, and going forward, look forward to making this a truly successful project for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Now, the property is owned by the city, right?
It's owned by the Housing Authority, yes.
Okay. Now, how many other lots in that area? Is this like a standalone lot, or are there other lots on that same city block that the Housing Authority also
There are,
has?
that's it's interesting you asked that question. We just had a meeting earlier. We have about 600 vacant lots in the inner city. So there's plenty of lots anywhere you look at. And in this area, actually what you're going to find when you actually visit this part of town is you have substandard housing around it. All kinds of housing that's deteriorated amongst vacant lots. So there'll be other opportunities to model something like this, not just around this area, but elsewhere. There is 2 blocks down towards the hospital. You're gonna find somebody that's built some nice apartments. So there's an interest to revitalize, and I think this is a good project. There's a lot of lots in the inner city.
But does the Housing Authority own like a few lots that are adjacent to each other where you can
Not
do?
currently. We have another project, Russell Terrace, which is getting rebuilt. You can take a look at our housing standard there. It's ongoing. We're gonna learn from this first. We're looking to acquire other properties where we can do, not just for this kind of social housing, but for the market, as we think there's an interest in building smaller units, just because of costs. Costs are going up tremendously. And 2, we invite the private sector to join in and build smaller units and sell to the market. I think that would be a successful project where not just us on the social side, but the private sector joins in to develop a good product, not, I think we want to be careful not to have something that's not going to last long enough for people to be proud of and have a good unit, but inviting the private sector to join in is part of the problem.
That's great job, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed special use permit? If not, those who wish to speak against the proposed special use permit for this project? Against? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
A motion to approve the whole plan.
We have a motion to approve the special use permit and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning Lot 1, Block 1, AQC subdivision located at 5505 US Highway 59 from B3 to B4. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change?
Afternoon, Chambers. My name is Maria Flores. I'm the owner of this property, and I'm the one that's running the change zone.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Flores from the commission? Thank you, Mr. Flores. This is a hearing, a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of this project, in favor of this project? Anybody else who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to follow staff recommendations and approve the zone change. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item that we have is public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning Lot 1, Block 1, Danny Lopez plat, located at 1920 Shiloh Drive from B1 to B3. We're gonna have Mr. Danny Lopez will be abstaining. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor.
Hi, Nick Boyle. I'm the president of Ampler Development. We are a 45-store Burger King franchisee with locations in El Paso, Laredo, and Waco. A little bit about the project. Slightly over 1 acre, 44 parking stalls. We're doubling, let's see if we have the image here. Yeah, we're doubling the city's requirement here. We're going with a double drive-through, plenty of ingress and egress so that you can get in and out of the site pretty easily off of Backwoods Trail and Shiloh. A lot of residential housing with very little food options in the area. We're going to be throwing a playground in there. There's a lot of children that really don't have anywhere to go, so we're kind of excited about that. And really just looking forward to bringing some more food options to the area. We have a lot of great restaurants. You can see we've remodeled almost all of the stores in the last 18 months. We've got a couple more to do next year, but we spend a lot of capital in the market. We partner, give a lot of scholarships in the area. We love this area. I'm from Corpus Christi, so I come down here quite a bit. And really just looking to provide some new options for the guests.
Any questions from the commission members? Thank you very much for your comments and presentation. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing, support staff recommendation, and approve the zone change.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from 3 items tonight. Do you want me to come to you now so you know which ones they are?
Yes, let me write it down. Go ahead.
It's gonna be item 8D.
I'm sorry, what? 8D?
8D,
Okay,
8E, and 10A.
got it. Okay, thanks. All right. Next item is public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 5 acres located south of Shallow Drive and east of Kirby Drive from B4 to AG. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor of the zone change.
Mr. Chairman, we received one letter in favor.
I'm sorry?
We received one letter in favor.
One letter in favor?
Yes.
None, no
Letter in
opposition? Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Garcia. I'm a lead real estate agent for AEP Texas. I'm based out of Corpus Christi. We support this project. With me today, we've got some other AEP representatives. They're here to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Okay. Any questions from the commission members? Any questions? Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to follow staff recommendations and approve
We have a motion.
the zone change.
Need a second.
Thanks.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We want to certainly thank AEP for having futuristic goals, moving community along. This is going to go a long way in enhancing your reliability in Laredo, and certainly thank you. I know that this project was probably a few years down the road, but this is certainly going to help a lot for this community. Thank you all very much. Next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 3.2802 acres located north of FM 1472 road from AG to M1. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor?
Mr. Chairman, just to note that you have updated exhibits at each of your stations.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Fred Guerra with Guerra Engineering, here to speak in favor.
Okay.
Answer any questions you have.
Anybody in the commission have any questions for Mr. Guerra? Thank you, Mr. Guerra. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change, against the zone change? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing, support staff recommendation, to approve the zone change.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 5 acres located southwest corner of FM 1472 and Game Creek Boulevard from AG to B3. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. Jay Dental, federal consultant, here to express that we support the zone change. If you have any questions for us.
Does anybody have any questions? No questions. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change?
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Medina, and I'm owner-manager of Emerald River Development, which is to the left and to the right of that property. There's about 60 acres that are going to be donated to the city as a park because we intend to make a large residential subdivision. In fact, I brought the master plan in case anybody wants to look at it. We're still working on it. But we understand that the intended use is to put some type of trailers or some type of commerce like that, and that would have a huge impact on the current homes that are being built by Westwind at that subdivision who we sold. There's 3 other builders that are gonna come in. I know Reese Homes is also building homes in that area. And like I said, we're doing phase 3 and phase 4, which be maybe 150 homes or so. And we feel that if they're gonna put trailers there, not only is it a hazard to in and out of that property, but it's also could create some sort of a health issue because of the oil spills or whatever that can come into the area. So we're totally against that.
Let me
It's
ask
gonna be
you,
used for
Mr.
like
Medina,
for
are you
commercial.
talking about like a trucking business or?
That's what I heard, yeah. If it's anything other than like maybe a strip center or something like that, which does not involve having like tractor trailers or flatbeds, I don't think we would have an issue with that. Because part of our idea is to have some of the frontage which adjacent to that is to create eventually some sort of a strip center or like, you know, similar to what the Claytons did on the Elmar Road. That's our plan.
Okay. Let me ask the staff, some of the uses on B3, is a trucking business allowed in the B3?
No.
Okay.
No, the sort of uses that you'll see in B3s are the things that you'll see on Saunders, on McPherson. Drive-through restaurants, similar to the one that we just approved. We have a comprehensive listing of all the uses that are allowed in a B3, but truck parking is not.
Okay, well, that's our biggest concern, as long as we don't have any kind of tractor trailers or flatbeds or anything that would lower the property area around it, you know, or degrade it, yeah, we would definitely against it, but if it's gonna be for
But
regular
just-
commercial.
just
no.
Mr. Medina, I believe the concerns you have are if it were to be moved to a B4, like all the uses that you've mentioned that you're concerned with, the property would be to a B4, not necessarily a B3. And so somebody's giving you, the limits on what a B3 can be are not as heavy commercial as what it seems like you're worried about.
Okay, well, like I said, if it's for the commerce that we're looking at, like maybe having, like you said, maybe drive-throughs, like a franchise store, things of that sort, or commercial, no, we don't have a problem with that. I think we need something in that area.
Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the listing of B3 though, that you have here, that you've added. And it does say parking areas for vehicles, trailers, RVs.
That's for retail.
For retail,
That's for sales.
for sales, yeah.
Okay, is that okay? Is that part of what you're concerned about or no?
Yes, nothing that would be like car dealerships or anything for sale there as a dealership of type. Like I said, our plans consist that in the frontage, we have like maybe a large strip center where, you know, anybody can come and do any kind of business in there. Like, I guess my best sample of what I'm talking about is if you go to where the Caleres did a job over on Del Mar, that is something that we're extremely interested in bringing into the area. The mines road is a very difficult business, the place to do business within residential housing because of the amount of tractor trailers. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, it enhances the area so people will be attracted to go to the area and not be, you know, swayed from going into that area.
But the lots that you're talking about over there by Calades on Del Mar Boulevard, those are B3s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, something like that, yeah, we're okay with that. That's, in fact, we love that idea. That's a great concept. If this is properly gonna be used for that, we're all for it.
Okay, I still have a question for staff, I guess. Do we have any idea of what the property's gonna be used for?
All they told us was commercial.
I guess we asked,
The engineer, do you have any idea what?
did you know what the property's gonna be used for?
I can't tell you exactly for sure, however, we do have the strong likelihood that it may be, an idea that it may be a grocery store, convenience store, something that will largely benefit the community around you.
We're okay with
Something
that.
around that, so.
You can't really limit them. Once they're asking for the B3, you either open up the B3 or you don't, because they're not limited to saying it's a convenience.
No, I understand that, but then why wouldn't we do like an SUP or something?
Because they have to market it. I don't know if they're gonna sell it or not.
Besides, this is, FM 1472.
The special use permit has to be that person, that.
They have to request it.
Yeah, the B3 is appropriate for the
B3 is
area.
really
And it's
a lighter zone than you could have on this property. You could have a B4 because it is a highway frontage.
Yeah, you know, before you.
And you could have an M1, there's a sporadic M1s all over the Mines Road area too, so B3 is probably,
What's the designated area for?
Yeah, but hold on, guys. Look at the list here. There's nothing here about commercial shopping center here. Is this not a complete list? Is that what
That's,
it's-
they're not
that's what it
limited
says. It says limited, but it's not limited to the following.
All right, well, I don't know, I guess the man's concerns are legitimate, but whatever.
okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. This is public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak against the zone change, Okay. Not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing, support staff recommendation, approve the zone change.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? We have one against. Thank you. Next item that we have here is request review and consideration of the Southern Development Subdivision Master Plan. The intent is residential and commercial. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from the Planning Department, from Fire, from Water and Utilities, Traffic Safety, and a notice to developer.
Mr. Chairman, we have one update. We would like to remove, planning comment number 1.
Okay, so we're gonna change the, what is it?
Crucero Drive back to the previously approved and recorded street name of Saniso.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Edward Garza. I'm here on behalf of Southern Development. We came before you, this is our third time coming before this commission for a master plan. We're in the process of preliminary plat later in tonight's agenda on Unit 4. And in this case, we've been working a lot with the fire department in trying to provide additional form of access on the southern part of this property, because in the original development phase, this property was always originally envisioned to be industrial. And so all the land around it developed a single family, and so there really wasn't any other form of connection to this side. Well, that changed over time, and now we basically have developed single family development in this area, which is moved along, and we concur with all the comments, but at the same time, we are working with the fire department to improve access. The city of Laredo has access through this part where the fire department currently is asking for an access from us, and they own land in this area. That was inside the Las Misiones property. Let me demonstrate that on this map. So what we're working with in the fire department, we have later on is this preliminary phase for Unit 4. And the request here is to provide a temporary turnaround here at the end of this proposed street. And we support that. However, we need to work with the city on that to allow us to use their property to build that temporary turnaround. Now, that area, as you can see by these marks, is floodplain, and it's owned by the city. It was donated to the city by the developer, Las Misiones. And over here on the other side of it, there's already an existing street. And so that gives the city the opportunity to ultimately connect to that street and provide that secondary access the fire department is requesting. This can work over time, but it's definitely going to be, once we get to our plat and completion, the city of Laredo is going to have to develop something long-term to make that connection work. Now, there's a lot of park planning currently going on in this area. As I recently saw in the newspaper where the councilman had a groundbreaking in this particular location for a park. And we have reached out to the Parks Department and the Fire Department in an effort to coordinate the development of this property long-term. And so we do agree with the comments, with the elimination of comment number 1, but we're looking for cooperation also with the city of Laredo in allowing us to provide that temporary turnaround to allow our plat to continue forward in that regard. And so with that, I'll open it up for any questions you might have.
I do have a question. I mean, obviously, one of the comments is by fire that you need a temporary turnaround.
Correct.
So have you started dialogue with, I guess, the city or the engineering department?
Yes, sir. We've been working with the fire department now for some time. This dialogue began back when we were doing phase 3 earlier this year. There's been several meetings and emails exchanged with the fire department. We've also the last email we sent to the fire department with our submittal for this master plan was we asked them to maybe, we copied the Parks Department in that regard to get them together. I'm not sure if that meeting's had, but I think that's definitely going to be one of our next steps, and because we believe that the city engineering department will have to allow the approval of that temporary turnaround.
Let me ask you this. This is park land.
Right.
And if I am not mistaken, a change in parkland has to be, there's a specific way you can change parkland only.
Well, and it's right that you said that. However, that land that's owned by the city has not been master planned for a park.
But it has been designated as a park already?
To my knowledge, yes.
So my understanding is under state law, to change land that has been designated as a park, there's a process.
Well, that's something that the city will have to undertake, I think, long-term, because the intent here is to
Yours is a
ultimately connect the two
temporary,
streets together.
yours is a temporary, need right now.
Right.
Which will be, we really don't know what the length of time will be either, because obviously, if the city's gonna be trying to connect, and that area is flood zone, right?
Yes, sir.
It's probably gonna require, is it gonna require some kind of a bridge structure?
Potentially, it would. It could also be developed as a low water crossing with proper signage. And the good news is that upstream of this location, there's an existing dam under the Lago de Valle development. And it is the intent, we're the engineers for that development as well, and it's our intent to modify that dam and turn it into a current detention pond facility. And so that will definitely provide good relief and to protect the city's investment in the future.
But all you need is a turnaround, which would be the same size as the cul-de-sac that you have off of Traviesia and Alam.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So right there, just to the east of Encanto, why don't you just do a turnaround and ask the city for encroachment into that area? What you're proposing is trying to connect two roads is going to cost the city a good amount of money to build a bridge.
Actually, we're not proposing that from our office. It's something that the city's requesting to do, to have the opportunity to have that in the future. My request in my official submittal to the city was to allow us the permission to do the temporary turnaround right there. That's what we're asking.
And in your master plan, you have potential connectivity to that road that's already there to the east side of
Yes, sir,
the
right here.
ditch. And so what you're saying is that note means that the city is asking you to build a bridge across on city
No.
land?
That's not what we're saying. All we're saying is that as we move forward and our intention is to get permission from the city to allow us to use their property for the temporary turnaround only. That's what we're discussing tonight. And we know we have to deal with other city departments on that end, and ultimately I would suspect the city engineering department and the one-stop shop will be the ultimate authority on that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
It seems, sir, that's
I just don't know what the point is of
we're
the
trying to
bridge.
approve.
They lose a lot, too.
I get that, but that's why, but I don't know why.
You lose a lot, you lose money.
No, okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
It seems that we're looking at a preliminary approval based on the assumption that the city will allow you to build. I think in order for you to build on the city, then the city would have to grant you a written permission first. Second, the city will not build for your benefit that particular cul-de-sac.
So we're not asking for that, Commissioner. We're not asking for the city to do anything for us. We're asking just that there be a spirit of cooperation between our client and the city to allow us to build a temporary turnaround on the city property. And that has nothing to do with tonight's comments. All we're suggesting is that we're just trying to bring that into the spirit of discussion.
I guess the question that in other words, the issue is, they want continuity to go through eventually, right?
Yes.
And that's what traffic department is that what they're proposing, or, I mean, because I can
It's
see.
more
where
of
you-
a fire it's more of a fire comment.
Well, yeah,
at this
but I
point.
mean, you know, in terms of, okay, are we looking at a transportation type situation here, futuristic? And I guess that's what I'm looking at, because obviously you can redesign this whole thing and just put the cul-de-sac at the end of that property of yours and you're done. You know, you just move up a little bit. But I guess that's what I'm asking. Now, let me ask the traffic department. Robert, can you come up here and see what you guys are looking at?
Because that's what it looks like. It looks like he's leaving it open so that it can later connect
Well, that's exactly
upstream.
why, that's the question, you know, that's what it looks like to me too.
There's some temporary.
Good evening, Robert Pena, with the Traffic Department. when we looked at this, our concern was mostly the access into that southern section of that phase, along that collector roadway. And where it stops becoming a collector and turns into a local road. And that's where we see the frontage in that phase. And then our concern is mostly traffic calming, speeding in front of those homes as vehicles move in and out of that phase. And what we see here is that only that single entrance in and out. We did ask if it had an alternate access, and I believe that's more for where the fire comes in. Because when we question continuity, it's more for an arterial roadway that circumvents more than one development. This is just a phase within a neighborhood.
Okay.
Ruben Dominguez with the Laredo Fire Department. Well, that is a major concern also, the fact that we only have one access point. Fire code requires anytime you have greater than 30 single-family dwelling units, you need two points of access to this subdivision, and they need to be remote. Now, here we have way over the 30, and we only have one entrance point. The second point, which is more minor than this one, which is the easier fix, is the turnaround at the end of the street in Canton. Fire code also requires that whenever you have a dead end exceeding 150 feet, they want a 96-foot cul-de-sac to turn the trucks around. They're large trucks, they're real hard to turn around. Even a single ambulance is hard to turn around. When you have a structure fire, you're gonna have 3 fire engines, an aerial truck, and you're gonna have a district chief and an ambulance. And those are more, this is over, I think this is close to about, what, 350 feet?
About 350.
That's a long way to back up just an ambulance, much less 5, 6 large trucks. So like I said, there are 2 issues. The one that we only have, do you know how many homes are in this total?
In this phase 4?
Yes.
The total is 137.
And the threshold
That's
is
not all on the south
30.
side. Phase 4 goes on the other side of the picture.
Well, on this part,
Roughly about maybe about a little bit over 100.
and the threshold is 30.
Yeah.
We got a
this
little
is
bit
a
over
lot.
100.
Okay. Let me ask you this, let me ask the engineer. You have unit 1 that's platted, you have a street connecting back to, is it, 359?
That's right.
So, I mean, that gives that secondary exit, and that's why, I said, okay, let's talk about this, because if that is a concern, and I can see the concern of the fire department, that's a lot of units for one way in and out. What is the time frame, or how is a unit 1, in terms of your development for the rest of the residential, how does that come into play? Because that may be something that, for fire would become a reality in the future of a secondary exit.
Okay, well, first of all, Unit 1's already platted. It was platted in the early
Right.
90s. So you already have an existing street there,
Okay.
dedicated public right of way.
But how far does
Does it
the street
connect?
in Unit 1, does it connect to Unit 2?
Yes, sir. Unit 2 is already existing and platted and recorded, and we extended that street into Gage Avenue.
So does Unit 5, does the right-of-way on Unit 5, does that exist now
No,
too?
Unit 5 does not exist yet.
Okay, so you don't have a secondary access?
Yes, we do. If I
Go ahead.
if I may. We extended Gage Avenue during the Unit 2, and we built the extension into Concord Hills.
Okay, so
So that's
connects.
existing also now.
Okay.
And that's a secondary access. And then during the Unit 3 process, we came before this board because we were trying to connect Unit 3 to Las Misiones back then. And what happened was the Las Misiones plat had been revised in the master plan. And in doing that, we lost the opportunity to connect. So what we're doing right now is we're currently negotiating with a landowner right here at this corner to acquire a piece of property to be able to extend this street in the future and tie into Las Misiones there to provide us another access point into Las Misiones for Unit 3. That is currently ongoing as we speak. And so now what we're coming to you tonight is not saying that we don't disagree with this comment, but we're saying that we're looking for the spirit of cooperation.
Okay, now, I guess your point where I got lost earlier on is that what you're saying is that where you're gonna go past your lot into city property is that later on, they're going to make a road anyway, connecting it across the creek.
That's what we understand is the city's intentions. Yes, sir.
Is that, Robert, is that what y'all are in transportation looking at, extending through,
Like, I guess, connecting the road that's on the east side
Yeah,
to
is
that,
that-
to, whatever Encanto Road.
Again, we're traffic department's all for mobility, any way that we can get it. Connectivity is great, but this type of connection would have to be feasible to that type of roadway. And that's why I say we're looking for this type of connectivity, it has to connect to something significant. In this case, it's only a phase of a subdivision.
But on the other side, you also have another subdivision.
Right, and so, again, it has to be feasible, you know, but I don't know what something like that would cost.
Yep. Because that's the major arterial that feeds into what, Chacon? Like the creek bed area. Like, that'd be a long bridge that you're gonna have to build.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
what is that waterway, Eddie? Is that
Which, I'm sorry?
that particular area right there? Yeah, what is that? What's the name of that, water, is, what, the creek, or what is that?
Oh, that's a tributary of Chacon Creek. It's tributary 1A.
Tributary, okay.
Tributary 1A.
Yeah,
And you'll be looking, basically, this is more of a local street connection to allow the fire department to have that other form of access. And that's really what we're talking about.
so really all you need is looking at a turnabout. I mean, second point of entry, like Fire was asking, is already, once you build Unit 5, that'll give you the second point of connect.
That'll be the third. He's already saying they have the second on.
It'll be the
Gage
third,
Street.
yes.
Fort Hills.
And then when we acquire this other property here, we'll have another connection.
So you'll have 4
Yes.
eventually.
They already meet
All
right
right.
now, their second.
Ruben?
But I guess the one that we're concerned with is 4, because that's the one that we don't have a second, unless it's crossing that park and connecting to this other area over here, then we're never gonna have a second entrance to section 4, correct?
That's right.
So I guess that might be something we would have to discuss, like you mentioned, we don't know what the likelihood of that street connecting is,
Right.
which it could be very slim.
But my understanding is you don't need you need 2 access points to the whole plan,
No,
not
to-
each individual
No,
unit.
once it turns into a dead end, from that dead end forward, once you have more than 30 residential dwelling units, you need 2 ways in and out. So once you're coming from this top portion here, in other words, right here at,
Wait on that,
You can point it right here.
over here.
from this point right here, if this becomes compromised, you have no other way into these 100 homes that you have here. So this is our concern, and I think our examiner was under the impression that at some point this was gonna connect, but then now we're coming to the understanding that the likelihood of this happening is very slim. So then now we gotta come back and look at it again, because it's only this one access point. Like I said, the threshold is 30. From this point forward, the threshold is 30, and we have about 100 homes in that area. Like, and I said, if something happens right here, you have no access to 100 homes.
Just want to add, I think it's very feasible to design and engineer a road crossing through a floodplain. It can be done. And even if it's a low water crossing, you can design that low water crossing to be able to withstand the low flow conditions,
They have in San Antonio.
25-year flow, and it'll allow the 50 and 100 to overtop it.
Yeah.
So it can be done, it's not impossible, it is feasible. And I think the intention here is to provide the fire department with the ability to access in a secondary manner. And I think by doing it this way, I think it can be done. It's just gonna take some planning and some coordination between several city departments to make it work.
And just to let you know, the fire code does allow the construction to continue if, under the understanding that at some point, there will be connection, as long as this is more probable than possible.
Let me ask you something, because I haven't been out there a long time. On Lago del Valle, Phase 4, is that totally built out? Do you know?
It's not totally built out, it's platted, but there's a few lots here on the corner that are still vacant, but they've all been sold.
Okay,
No,
and
but
I was looking more in terms of,
The streets.
yeah,
Like, are the
you know,
street-
buying one of the lots and cutting the street out that way. And that's why I was asking the question. I mean, that's a shorter you know, for the city, I mean, and for fire, that would be, you know, something that would work.
I'd have to study that a little bit
But
more.
I don't know. Like I said.
Talk to the developer, which we represent him as well, but I know there's, as a matter of fact, in this area on Lago Phase 4 here, we have a total combined easement there of 25 feet. Because we're actually doing an access, a concrete access trail through there for maintenance purposes for the Webb County Drainage District for maintenance. And that's what we're gonna be constructing, and that can theoretically become another access for the fire
Well,
department.
for fire, all you gotta do is, at a minimum, have a caliche-type road to provide access.
Right, no, I agree.
to
It's just that this area is developing so fast that we're seeing that we better build it out of concrete now so it can handle heavy load now.
I agree.
No, the problem we have, though, is that we see the outline of a corresponding master plan, but we don't know how far along, or if it's just in the design stage, or if the streets are, or if the conductors are already done. And we don't even know if it's even in the house, you know, that their structure's already built there.
Now, another thing we're doing is this little line you see there represents a pedestrian access that we're coordinating directly with UISD. We're working on providing a pedestrian access for the students that will be going to school there so they can just walk to school. And right now, I think we're looking at about a 12 to 15-foot wide pedestrian access. And what UISD has on their side is just a parking lot. And so theoretically, you know, that could be designed also as a potential emergency access if necessary. But, you know, that's not really our
Well,
first choice.
let me ask you this, based on what you were talking about, the 25-foot concrete access easement, where is that? Can you point it out on the map to me?
We're working on, it's bringing it in this direction here, off of this public street, to
Okay.
provide access to this backside. And that way we can maintain that drainage area and have access to a public street for our contractors. And then there's gonna be a trail system also that's gonna be developed that connects Lago del Valle to Southern Development through a public park system. And that's how the city can also be a party to that and connect it all together. And perhaps some of this trail in this particular location could be designed to handle heavy load and allow it to be used as an emergency access as well.
All right. I mean, those are good options to look at, and, you know, you discuss with the fire department and see what works for everybody. I mean, obviously, everybody in this commission is concerned about the safety of any residential development that's gonna happen, and making sure we meet fire code. Any other questions from the commission? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to support staff's recommendation and approve, subject to the following comments.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you.
I guess I went under the assumption that planning note 1 had already been withdrawn.
That's correct.
So,
That's correct.
All right, next item we have is preliminary consideration of Lot 11, Block 1, Sierra Vista subdivision, Unit 4A into lots 11A and 11B, Block 1, Sierra Vista subdivision. The intent is a billboard. This is a 1.343 acre tract, and it is located east of US 83 and north of Sierra Vista Boulevard. Zoning for this two-lot development is R1, and its proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, and a note to the developer. Okay. Are there any changes to the comments or anything?
There's no updates.
No updates at all? Okay. Any questions for the engineer from the commission? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a preliminary consideration of the plat of Southern Development Subdivision Unit 4. The intent is residential. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from the planning department, from the engineering department, from fire, from water and utilities, from traffic, and a notice to developer.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to remove planning comment number 1 and 2.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Edward Garza here on behalf of Southern Development. With the removal of comments 1 and 2, we do concur with all the other staff comments, but I do want to say that the project is currently under review by FEMA, and it is our intention to remove all the floodplain completely from all the lots. And so it's ongoing as we speak. We submitted that to FEMA about 3 months ago, and it takes about a year to get the approval. So we agree with the comment. We understand why it should be left there until then the clomer, we'll get the clomer from FEMA, and then we'll come back and be able to remove that.
Okay. Wishes of the commission.
Motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
With the removal of,
Comments 1 and 2.
Comments 1 and 2.
second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Chairman, these are the items that I'm gonna read, excuse myself.
Is it C or D?
8D and 8E.
We're in C.
Oh, we're on C? Where
Yes,
am I
sir.
at? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're one ahead.
I'm already ready to go.
Not so fast. There's
Rudy's Barbecue.
Preliminary consideration of the plat of the Blanca subdivision, Unit 14B. The intent is commercial. This is a 7.7267 acre tract located west of Camino Nuevo Road, north of State Highway 359. The zoning for this one lot development is B4. The proposed action is approved, subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from fire, from the Webb County Appraisal District. There's a note and a notice to developer. Do-right inspection service. Are they here?
No? No.
Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Flores. Next item is preliminary consideration of the replat of a 20-foot easement, block 1965, Eastern Division into Lot 3B, block 1965. The intent is a billboard. The proposed action is approved, subject to the following comments from planning and from the note from Webb County Appraisal District and a notice to developer. Any questions for the engineer from the commission? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, preliminary consideration of the plat of the new trade center, phase 3. The intent is industrial. This is a 22.82 acre tract located west of FM 14782, north of La Bota Ranch. The zoning for this lot line development is M1. The proposed action is approved, subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from water and utilities, traffic safety, and a notice to developer.
Mr. Chairman, Utilities has communicated with us that they are fine with removing their comment.
Utilities will remove their comment.
Yes.
Okay, so if they're not, if they're saying their line's to capacity, so what is their comment now?
They have not submitted any,
They didn't submit new comments.
I'm
but
sorry?
They didn't submit new comments, but they already worked it out with the engineer.
Okay, Mr. Ochoa?
Good evening, members of the commission, staff. Edward Ochoa with CEC, and we do concur with staff's comments and the removal of that comment from utilities.
Okay, you guys worked out a situation with the utilities department on the system of, the septic system?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so we met with the utilities department a few weeks ago, my client and I, and we met with the utilities director, spoke to him about the issue that they have, the concern that they have. And they informed us that they're looking at making some improvements to that area on the sewer system, which would allow us to sewer to that system approximately 12 months down the road is what we were told. And so as we go through our plating process, that timing might work out to be just about the same time. So they've allowed us to move forward with our plating process and our development process as they work on their improvements to the area for the septic sewer system.
No.
This is a preliminary plat.
Yeah, I guess, is this something that we're gonna be getting a note on every single plat that we deal with out of Mines Road?
It would be up to utilities to determine that.
Yeah,
I mean, because if, what the note says is that they're at capacity, so that means that everything upstream or up of Mines Road is, nothing should be built, period. And, I mean, we just had 2 other plats that came before us, or zone changes, to change from vacant land to something else, and so we're further gonna increase capacity. And so, at some point, like,
Yeah.
what that note says is, we can't build anything more north of, essentially, Delmar Boulevard up Mines Road.
Yes.
Well, I think, I know you've studied the system up there that they have in utilities, and I know they have a sewer plant up there too, right? So there's probably a portion of that area up there that is feeding new lines into that subdivision, that sewer plant, right?
Correct, sir.
And therefore, portion of the land that is available on the Mines Road or some of those industrial parks, they can't expand at this time because what's existing cannot handle it. But there are other portions further west, right, that.
I guess maybe further east of us.
Yeah.
Further east of us, yes, sir.
Yeah, that might be able to handle it. But again, that's gonna be up to the utilities department on what their system can handle. Obviously, based on what they're proposing here at this point, the utilities department needs to do something to give them a serviceable sewer. I know that there's a lot of area down there, like you mentioned, that is at capacity. Bristol Road and all those areas are at capacity. And so,
Basically,
yeah.
everything that doesn't feed into Pico,
Yeah.
Pico and just feeds
Right,
into
comes
the
back
city.
down, is at capacity, and that is a problem the city has, big problem. But this is preliminary, so, I mean, he has to come back with final plat, and that may take.
I just don't
Yeah.
think that it's, we get it, the first time we hear about it, we get it through this plat, and it's something that we're here approving stuff for development off of Mines Road, and so it's not necessarily for this thing, but it's something that council needs to do something about it.
And I think, you know, and I'm gonna defer to Mr. Ochoa, in your conversations with the utilities director, obviously, he is looking at doing some kind of improvements to help the whole area.
Correct, sir, yeah.
So I think, Commissioner, the city is looking into doing some things to help that area. And the question is, I don't know, the length of time that it's gonna take to, you know, have a serviceable line in place. Their estimate right now is a year, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's what we were told.
I mean, so plus or minus, you know, but nothing else will be able to move forward. Now, in this case, this is preliminary, so.
No, they're a year away from construction.
Yeah,
The thing
so-
is, knowing that you're at capacity in November of 2018 isn't the time you should be looking into things. You should be doing things when
I
you're
think,
at,
it's a
like
twofold,
foresight.
I think it's a twofold issue. The other thing is obviously funding. I mean, do they have the funding available to, these are major projects, and those are, I guess, key issues, and I don't have the answers to those, and I don't know if you guys have it, no. But you're right about what you're saying, you know, on the planning. You're absolutely correct. I mean, there should have been a little bit better planning on future growth in the area. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Ochoa? Thank you, Mr. Ochoa. All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve subject to the following comments, considering the removal of utilities comment number, well, the only utilities comment.
Okay.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to hear items 9A, B, C, D, 10A, 11A, B, C, and D.
Tell you what,
I believe they're all finals.
can you just eliminate 10A and take all the other ones? And then we'll take that separately because Commissioner Flores has to abstain from 10A.
Okay, items 9A, make a motion to hear items 9A, B, C, and D, and items 11A, B, C, and D as one item.
Second motion. Second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I subsequently make a motion to approve all those items.
Second. Second.
a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Make a motion to approve, make a motion to approve item 10A.
I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn? Second, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thanksgiving, everybody.